Hola a todos. Este video se hablará por completo en español. Solo bromeaba. Soy simplemente feliz porque tengo un B en la clase de español este semestre. Pero ahora me siento incómodo porque no soy realmente tan bueno en español. Así que voy a parar ahora. Adios. Anywho, welcome back to A Plus Life, where all month long we are focusing on honesty. And this week we're focusing on honesty and kindness together. And the reason I wanted to bring up this topic is because I've been seeing a certain trend on social media lately. And that trend is the word petty. If you're not familiar with this trend, it has been popping up in tweets, memes, videos, hashtags, you name it. And when someone is being petty, they're usually trying to make a joke out of hurting someone else. And through these types of jokes, the perpetrator makes themselves look stronger, more popular, or funnier. So basically, being petty sounds a lot like another word where people make others feel small to make themselves feel bigger. Bullying. And I just find this whole trend to be really sickening, but the biggest thing that frustrates me about it is that when people are being petty, I often hear them use the following excuse. I'm not being mean, I'm just being honest. Hold up, stop the presses, pause. I'm so excited talking about this, I gotta take my sweater off. Honesty is not an excuse to be rude. It doesn't justify teasing, belittling, or hurting someone else. Even if what we are saying is true and we have the right to speak our mind, we don't have the right to hurt someone else in the process of doing that. And I think before we learn how to calmly tell the truth, we need to look at why we have this petty behavior. Gossip, insults, and rudeness come from a place of insecurity. If we can't handle our own flaws, we take it out on someone else. And when we feel weak, we want to appear stronger than the other person, so we often say things that are aggressive, hurtful, or violent. But true honesty isn't a competition of who's right or wrong or bigger or stronger. It's about being real, selfless, and compassionate enough to share our true feelings with other people. So when we get into the nitty-gritty, being real is akin to being kind. When we are truly ourselves and truly honest, we have no need to be unkind because we're comfortable enough with our own flaws to where we don't need to feel bigger than anybody else. But even though that's the real meaning of truth-telling, that idea has also been squandered by another cultural belief, which is the idea that the truth hurts. And to me, this is just as aggravating as the word petty because it perpetuates the idea that when we're being honest, we're justified to be hurtful. Now, in some ways, the truth hurts is a correct statement. It can hurt to hear that we're not impressing others, or we're being broken up with, or that we're not as close to our friends as we thought. Those are all instances where learning the truth can be frustrating and difficult. But again, while it can hurt to hear the truth, we don't have to be hurtful as we say it. There's a difference between saying, "You're lazy, I can't stand you," and saying, "I don't see you putting a lot of effort into this friendship, and therefore I have trouble being friends with you." It's all about the difference between being mean and being vulnerable. Being mean makes others fight back and it builds walls between people. But being vulnerable invites people in. When we're able to calmly state our unmet needs versus our elevated emotions, we can stop others from yelling back at us and actually work on solving the problem. But sometimes it's hard to reel in our emotions when we've been feeling them for a long time, so when we release them, it comes out a lot more harshly than we intended. So my A+ tips this week are all about how we can be calm and kind as we tell the truth. The first one is for teachers, and it's to emphasize empathy. When we're able to take an outside view of the situation, we can look at the words that we want to say and decide if they're being helpful or hurtful. And putting ourselves in someone else's shoes can help us avoid saying that mean thing because we know that it's just going to make things worse. The biggest thing that we have to ask ourselves is what's more important here, the relationship with the other person or our own ego? You know, do we really need to risk losing a coworker, a friendship, or a significant other just so we can look stronger? And if we lose them, will we really be stronger? These are the things that we risk when we're not calm and composed as we confront other people. The next tip is to use strong communication techniques as we say what we feel. This means using I statements rather than you statements, using an assertive voice rather than a passive or aggressive one, and communicating our unmet needs rather than saying something that creates more distance. Instead of saying this, "You're an idiot for messing up this assignment," we can say this: "If you're having trouble with something, please feel comfortable asking me questions. That way we can work through it together and we can avoid making these mistakes." Did you see that? Did you see how I smiled and I had a polite tone and I wasn't all hunched over. Using strong communication techniques means doing all the things that your mother says, whether that's using better tone, your word choice, or watching your nonverbals as you speak to someone else. Finally, the last tip is also for adults, and it's to set an example of kindness. Always be kind to your teen, because kindness is contagious. The reason why pettiness has circulated so much is because people have laughed at it and supported it. But when we see pettiness for what it truly is, we realize that it's bullying. So to set a stronger example for our younger generation to follow, we need to teach them that being kind will get you a lot farther than being cool. We need to emphasize that even if it's uncomfortable, being kind is always the best way to solve a situation, because being petty will just lead to more arguments in the future. So don't be cool, be kind! Because I'll still think you're cool anyway. That's all we have time for this week, but join me next week where we'll talk about the empowering side of honesty. Thank you so much for watching and have an A+ day!